Man, I tried to tell them, what's up, my dudes? We got that 2022 Seattle RF Supercross track right here. So, I want you boys to take a little trip down memory lane, okay? Every time I see them, something wrong with their memory. Oh, man. Let's take a little trip down memory lane. Let's remember back to when I did my track review of Anaheim 1, the very first track of the season. All right. What was all the things I was saying that they were doing wrong with the tracks and they needed to change with the track design? Just think for a second, okay? The jumps weren't big enough. They didn't pop you up in the air enough. There wasn't enough peak to the jumps. The dirt didn't really feel like that actual dirt compound from that particular track. Okay? They needed more quad jump lines that you felt like you could actually try to hit every lap consistently. Do you see right there? Yes. You know, proper dirt color, proper dirt feeling, taller jump faces to jump you higher up in the air, more skill-gapped whoops, bigger whoops. These are all the things I was saying at the very first round. And I swear to Pastrana, it's literally like they have done every single thing I've said other than pre-made, ruts and roughness, but that's because they're doing Erode, right? But other than that, other than the pre-made aspect of it, they have literally done every single thing that I told you at Anaheim 1. Are you starting to realize that I know what the fuck I'm talking about when it comes to these tracks? Are you starting to realize that? I mean, everything. The finish line jumps bigger, just like I said. They can't have those tiny little finish line jumps like they had at Anaheim 1. I mean, it's everything. It is seriously, I'm not kidding you when I say they have done everything. Everything I said, other than pre-made, like inside pre-made ruts and stuff like that. But as far as just the base version of the way they're building the track, like transitions, jump faces, quad lines, whoop skill gap, whoop faces, even the berms in the corner, swear to God, they feel bigger here than they did at like Anaheim 1. So, yeah, this is most certainly, I feel like, their best track that they've made all year long. Yeah, I mean, they're certainly going in the right direction. They're on the right road now. The problem is, we're already more than halfway through the season, okay? That's the entire problem right here. It took them half the season to figure out what the hell they were doing. So you've already messed up this 2022 RF Supercross season. It's already broken. But now, round 12, I think this is, now they're starting to give you the bigger jumps. Now they're starting to give you the hittable quad lines instead of making all the quads just impossible to really hit every lap. Now they're getting what I like to call up and down jump skill gap. Okay? Up and down skill gap's what I like to call it, where it gets right to that point where the jump peaks and the transitions are going to jump you up in the air high enough to the point to where it challenges you right to that point where someone that's good at jumping through rhythm sections and supercross jumps in this game is going to be able to massively separate themselves on a track like this than just some Billy Bob Joe random dude on MX Sim that ain't really got that Supercross skill set, right? Somebody that does have that Supercross skill set, they're going to be able to heavily separate themselves on a track like this compared to like the Anaheim 1 track. It didn't even really matter if you could jump or not on that track. Everybody was going to basically hit the same shit Everybody's going to go through the whoops like they weren't even there. You know, it just, I don't understand what the deal is. Why it takes us so long just to get back to. See, this is like about what I would call like a 2015 mixed with the 2014 mixed with the 2017 style of track in the game. That's about what I would call this right here. Still doesn't have any pre-made. You know, no pre-made ruts anywhere, nothing like that. But just that jump scaling, width of the track, the transitions, the jump peaks. This has got to be the closest to that golden era of Supercross Pro track design in this game. This has to be the closest they've gotten to that in 2022, like, period. But that's my whole problem with it, though. They should have had their shit together at the level they have it on this track. They should have been doing that from the very beginning, Anaheim 1. Do you see what I'm saying? They should have had all their shit together at Anaheim 1. It's almost unbelievable when you really do go back and ride on that Anaheim 1 track and you see how different the jump skill gap and bigger line skill gap. It's like they're not even the same kind of track. It's unbelievable that you can have a track of the skill gap of the Anaheim 1 and the skill gap of this Seattle track right here in the same Supercross series on MXM. That's almost like hilarious because it's like you literally have an amateur sand Supercross track in the same series that you have a full-blown pro level, big whoops, big jumps, quad jumps, all this stuff that this track has. It's almost like comical that they're in the same series. You know, it's almost like you've got, if you talk about this 2022 RF Supercross series here, you got some of the rounds that feel like they're like fucking 2012, 2011 level skill gap. You got some of them that feel like they're like 2015 level skill gap. You got some of them kind of like this track. This is more like your 2017 level skill gap right here. I mean, it's just like, it's all over the place. It's all over the place in 2022. And that is the biggest problem I feel that happens with this is everybody forgets so quickly. Everybody, I swear to God, it's like something's wrong with their memory. We're going to get to 2023 Supercross. We're going to get to Anaheim 1. And I would say 90% of the racers in the MXM community is going to totally forget about all this bullshittery that RF has put on full display yet again in 2022. Again, don't make me have to pull up the, half of the tracks with the exact same dirt, color, and feeling, okay? Don't make me have to pull that up again, okay? But that's a little proof to you, but it ain't just those first rounds having the same dirt color and the same dirt feeling. It was also the way they were designing the jumps. It was just not even close. Like the Oakland track. The Oakland track. Oh, man. Either way. Oh, what do you know, RF? You're going to let us hit a quad that's actually hittable? And you're not going to do every single little thing you can to try to restrict us from hitting a quad? Wow. This is amazing. You know, you got to know the history of everything is what I'm saying. RF has been doing this quad restriction thing for like 2 or 3 years now. Just about ever since they started doing the Erode, they've had this big mindset of like 1-to-1 scaling. Let's limit them from hitting the quads. Let's try to make everything look more realistic, 1-to-1 scaling. But then here you go. Here's a perfect example of quad rhythm just like you would have had back in 2017. This is almost identical to the kind of difficulty to a quad jump that you would have had in 2017. Very hittable. You could hit this every lap of a main event if you're a really good 450 rider in the game. And it's a huge separator. It is a huge separator to be able to quad this instead of triple this. you're gonna make up like 2 or 3 seconds right there, right? You have to time the jumps. See now the way they're building these jumps with the peaks and the transitions that they have, now it's bringing back all of that actual leaning skill gap, and where you got to get the bike up over the next jump face. You got to be able to lean forward and lean back, and it just takes a whole nother level of Supercross bike maneuvering in this game to get around a track like this. Even these 2 triples right here, even though these are both just triples, if you've rode on this track, you know this ain't no cakewalk just easily hitting both of these triples right here every lap, because the landing of this first triple is super peaked out, and then it's kind of tough to get right down in to jump up over that second triple without over jumping or under jumping something. You know, both of these first rhythms on this track right here take quite a bit of leaning skill gap, throttle control, you know, knowing where you're at on the track type shit. And that was just so missing in a bunch of their earlier tracks this year, where it felt like you could just go around the track with your fucking eyes closed and not even think about what you were doing. Do you see the difference I was trying to explain on those tracks earlier this year? Do you see the difference in an amateur track and a pro track? Completely different animals, man. Totally different kind of things. But a lot of you amateur boys can't see that difference. So when you get on a track like the Anaheim one or the Oakland of this year, you think everything's just all fine and dandy. There ain't nothing wrong with it. And you're just going around the track and everything's all good. Because you don't know that fucking separation between an amateur track and a pro track. It's such a indescribable difference that it makes on the track. You know, it's just unbelievable. But like, you put an amateur on a track like this and they're going to wad their brains out on both of these jump rhythms right here for laps on laps until they get it figured out. You know? And even I would say the pure amateurs of this game would still have trouble hitting this quad right here on a 450. Certainly not, they wouldn't be able to do it on a 250, but unless it is just the fastest amateur that should really more so be in the pro class, but nonetheless. But do you see everything I was saying? I mean, like, but my whole problem is, it's like, it's as if these past few years, it's like RF takes all these steps backwards with track design, you know, berm size, feeling to the dirt, the whoops being too small, that softer, sandy, loamy, everything just feels like a cushiony cloud. I mean, there's all these different things they have taken steps backwards with, and then it takes them all these rounds just to get back to where I feel like we were before all this shit went down the shitter hole. You know, it takes them so many rounds just to get back to this certain level. This ain't even talking about let's make some of the best Supercross tracks ever made in this game. This is just, let's just get back to a consistent level of these tracks having the proper amount of pro skill gap and jump size and height and proper transitions and berm size and different dirt colors and different dirt feeling. I mean, I'm talking about all the most basic shit that you would just come to expect in a paid pro esports level simulator series, that you used to be able to just expect all these things. Quad lines, you know, skill gapped rhythms, different ways to hit shit, inside ruts, all this shit, okay? And that's my whole point is, RF is in that boat now where you're just lucky for RF to even give you what used to just be expected with the shit, you know? But I mean, it's just like, oh man. So yeah, I mean, yeah, they're on the right track now. They're doing the right stuff now. But what do we have? 4 more rounds left of this Supercross series? It's just like, why are we doing this? I think the Erode system is a very big culprit of it. You know, them trying to build the tracks around a road is a very big culprit of the shittier, sandy feeling to the dirt. And that's something I wanted to explain about this track. This is Seattle, so I already expect a track like this to have a little bit more of a softer, loamier type feel to it. I already expect that. So, I'm not going to complain about a softer feel to the dirt on a track like this than I would on like an Arlington track, right? That is supposed to be hard packed and blue groove style, super hard packed Arlington. I'm not going to complain as much about a Seattle feeling soft because I feel like a Seattle feels softer in real life than a lot of the other tracks do. And you could probably even say that about Indianapolis as well. But yeah, this is not the exact same traction feeling as like Anaheim 1. It is different. It doesn't feel like it's robbing your power quite as much. It doesn't feel like as friction based like I was telling you boys. Even though it has a little bit of a softer feel than like the 17 tracks, even still right here, it's not as soft and frictiony as like the Anaheim 1 track had to it, It is a different feel and a completely different dirt color than any other track that they've done this year so far. So that gives it a unique vibe to it too. But it's just like, holy shit, we got to get all the way through this Supercross season before RF actually figures out what the hell they're doing with the tracks again. And then you're already through the season. You're already through the entire Supercross series. You do realize you're paying for this esports racing experience on MX Simulator. You're paying for it. You're paying to race. This is not a case of, well, okay, kind of like the Aerial series of MX bikes. I know they've been going through a bunch of different stuff and changing the way they're building stuff and having to delay shit. But that's a lot more acceptable in a series that you don't have to pay for, in a series that you don't have to pay to race in. See, RF, the current RF is actually FR, but nonetheless, see, basically, you gotta understand what the fuck. You gotta try to get yourself in the mindset that RF was in before they even started this Supercross series. It's almost unbelievable when you realize they were sitting there before the 2022 RF Supercross season knowing good and well that they had no idea what the hell they were going to do. They had no real plan. In their head, they were just going to wing it. And I don't know how much more proof of that than you need than all the shit show of all those tracks that they made at the first start of this season and all the changes they've made from then until now, how drastically they've changed all this shit. Jump size, berm size, dirt filling, dirt color, whoop size, whoop skill gap, overall skill gap, finish line distance, finish line jump skill gap, all this shit. They have changed dramatically from the first round. It's like not even the same kind of track. But anyways, you just look at all that, you take all that into account and realize RF had no plan. They had it in their head. They were just going to wing it, but they were still going to charge you the same amount of money as if it was that same pro RF esports level experience that you've come to expect over some of these previous years. They still charged you the same money, got you all hyped up like it was going to be that same sort of series, and it just simply has not been at all. I mean, yeah, now they're starting to make some better tracks, okay, but this has been a shit show of a Supercross series with MXM. There's just no debating that. There's just absolutely no debating that. And so that's my whole thing when I talk about all this. It's specifically when you're paying for a series, you have to expect there to be a level of pre-preparation, a level of consistency throughout the series. And I don't mean consistency like make every single track the exact same dirt color, RF. That's not what I mean by consistency. I mean, the jumps being to somewhat of a similar skill gap on most of the tracks, the whoops being built to somewhat of a similar skill gap on most of the tracks. Obviously, you have room for some variation there going from one kind of track to another, but, it's just like this has not even been remotely close to what I think of as a paid RF, tippity top of the slope level, competitive realm, paid esports level series on MXM. This is a side series level group of individuals that did not create RF. These are not the same guys that built RF into what it has become in this game over all these years. Just because they're using the RF name does not mean anything. You know, when RF shut down for the first time, that was really the end of the OG RF days. And you had some of those RF guys that tried to kind of stick around a little bit and help with some stuff. But I feel like we're to the point now where it's almost like so separated from that original RF experience that you used to get that's why it seems like you're literally racing in a side series named RF. You know what I mean? That's why it feels that way. That's why the tracks are so different. That's why all this shit's that way.